It's tough to find truly new ideas these days in the cinema lighting space, and the Brokeh lighting system is perhaps a rare exception. It's a whole ecosystem of diffusion that aims to make lighting, especially white LED lighting sources, feel more natural. Hi, I'm Graham Ayler-Sheldon, and this is my first look at the Brokeh lighting system. I stumbled upon the Brokeh system while wandering around the corners of social media, and I was instantly intrigued by the promise of less artificial feeling soft light. The lighting system invented by John Tyndall uses color to break up the harsh white light sources we often rely on for our key lights. I'll admit, when I saw the patterns printed on both transparency and classic magic cloth diffusion, I briefly wondered how it would be received arriving on set with technology like this. Certainly these patterns draw at least some attention and work as conversation pieces too. Not a problem for me, I'm fully willing to embrace something different in a world filled with 1x1 panel lights. Anyway, the system is broken down into two separate groups called the Nature Series and Facial Series. The Facial Series seems like it was invented at Burning Man, and I kinda love that. But the results do speak for themselves at the cost of at least a stop or two of light. So let's get started with a look at the Facial Series. Keep in mind that the Facial Series requires the pattern to be stacked with your existing diffusion of choice. The Nature Series can live on its own without stacked diffusion. Generally in this first look, don't take my word for it. We're going to show before and after options here wherever possible so you can draw your own conclusions. The Facial Series is a group of 3 different patterns made up of the Facial Anamorphic Key pattern, Facial Enhancement Key pattern, and a Facial Enhancement Fill pattern. They might all be labeled either key or fill, but after working with the Brokeh system, it all really lends itself to experimentation. Mix it up wherever possible, or even explore bouncing light with the Nature Series if you wish. It all works, and it all creates a markedly different feel to the source itself. So, here we go. Of course, you can order custom sizes in all of the Brokeh patterns, and I'm using a Litepanels Astra 6X for this test because I feel like it's a common fixture that many of you may have access to. Okay, so before we jump into testing, we're gonna see bare bulb. There's no diffusion in front of this. This is straight out of an Astra 6X. All right, we have Nina here. Thank you, Nina. We're gonna start with the first pattern, which will be the Facial Anamorphic Key Light. So we have our full grid diffusion, which we're gonna have in there first, and then we're gonna stack it with the Brokeh pattern. If you look closely, tough on YouTube I know, you do see the promised smoother transition from specular highlights to the shadowy parts of the image, at least to my eye. Let's compare them side by side. So moving on to the Facial Enhanced Key Light. Still with the full grid diffusion. This one I think speaks for itself. It does take the edge off the source. It also seems like things are being warmed up here on the Kelvin scale. And finally, the Facial Enhancement Fill pattern. Although it's working as a key here because I wanted to keep everything single source to really see differences. To my eye, the Facial Enhanced Fill is sort of less of a huge change versus the other two. It's a little more subtle. All right, so the question is, what level of Kelvin shift is happening here as we introduce the Brokeh series? So our light is set to 5600 Kelvin right now, and it's punching through common full grid. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get a reading here just to see where we're at with this light, with the full grid in general. So let's see. We're just gonna eyeball this for the purposes of this test. All right, so we're landing at 5767 Kelvin. Now we're gonna add that first Brokeh pattern back in. Let's see what happens once we add Brokeh. Okay. All right, so our target 5600K. We added the facial anamorphic key light in front of our full grid. Yeah, so we're landing at 5123 Kelvin. So, I mean, that's 600-ish Kelvin difference just because we're adding this pattern. You can match, obviously, your source to your Kelvin within your camera, so that's an option. But just so we understand, it's a 600-ish Kelvin difference. So when we say these patterns are warming things up, that's absolutely true. We're not just eyeballing that. That's the case right here. Leaving the full grid in. This is the facial enhance key light. 4,976 Kelvin. So, Alex, why don't you go back to 5600K in camera? Okay. I just kind of want people to see what's happening here. So now we are 700 Kelvin away from where we started. And go to 4,000. Yeah, why don't, let's let people see that too. So if you could go to like 5,000 Kelvin. Cool. How do the skin tones look there, Alex? I mean, pretty natural, normal? Great. Okay, so we've changed the Kelvin in camera to be about 5,000 because our reading here was 4,982. We're gonna try our last pattern right now in the Brokeh series. This is a fun guy here, facial enhanced fill. All right. So Alex, if you go back to 5600K. Okay, target remains 5600. Let's see what we get here. So 5725 Kelvin based on our target 5600K. I'm gonna go ahead and save that one. So that's interesting. The facial enhanced fill doesn't shift the Kelvin temperature away from 5600 at all like the other two patterns do. So that's something interesting to know, that the facial enhanced fill is if you're trying to keep your Kelvin temperature in a similar range, then this might be the pattern to go with. But for the other two patterns, I mean, they warm things up considerably, as much as several hundred Kelvin, and as much as 700 Kelvin, I should say, at some points. Okay, moving to the Nature series. Again, printed on magic cloth. The Nature series has softer patterns with various colors. The Rose Garden pattern feels more organic in design, and the New York flat pattern is vaguely reminiscent of urban windows. There's also the brand new Santa Fe pattern. We had access to 6x6 versions of all three. The stated goal by Brokeh here is to give your actor the feel of being in a real environment and not one dominated by studio lighting. Let's start with a shot through basic Westcott diffusion. And now we'll go to the Rose Garden. And now side by side. Here's a look at the New York flat pattern. And now, side by side. I am particularly impressed with the Nature series, and if I'm looking for one SKU to dip my toe into the Brokeh system, I'd personally go with the Rose Garden. It does feel a bit more organic to me in general. Here's a look at Santa Fe. And now side by side with that diffusion. One of the interesting things about Santa Fe is that it reduces the look of reflections on glass or other reflective surfaces. Let's dive into pricing. There aren't a ton of places carrying this system so far. Datalight California does carry a few SKUs, and you can, of course, purchase directly off the Brokeh website. Depending on dimensions, you'll see a range from $127 for a 44 by 48 inch expendable roll of New York flat, or a 6 by 6 foot print of Rose Garden will cost $595. This includes mounting grommets for attaching to standard 6 by 6 frames. I'm told you can go all the way to 20 foot by 20 foot pieces, with the cost moving up in parallel to those larger dimensions. Of course, along with custom pieces, I'm told the Brokeh team is planning on supporting the bicolor Hudson Spider instruments soon. In conclusion, it's tricky to tell the split between how much the Magic Cloth is changing the look with the Nature series and how much the pattern itself is changing the look. I won't deny that. But there is something about the Brokeh system, both the Facial and Nature series, that's worth paying attention to. If you're looking to switch up the feel of the instruments you go back to again and again, this is potentially the way to do it. It's clear that I'm just scratching the surface. This is the type of system that I'm going to continue to find new ways to utilize, and that's going to take time. Hats off to the Brokeh team for focusing on creating a more naturalistic feel for those pesky, sometimes harsh LED lighting fixtures. There you have it. That's my first look at the Brokeh lighting system, Nature and Facial series. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Special thanks goes out to Rev Studio in San Diego for their help with this review. Go to revstudiosd.com for more info on how to book their beautiful studio space.